Good afternoon, good day, good morning, good evening, because you are from different countries from whole world. That's why in Indonesia is evening, in Germany is afternoon, and I don't know, in the other countries maybe it's morning. Happy to see you again here, my lovely, friendly friends and colleagues. And this is a great honor to have you here as a speaker. Today, our topic is focus on dynamic societies with the focus on behavior, ethics, and activities based on socio-cultural capital. As you know, this topic, social capital, was the first time by Professor Yokohama in Harvard University, who was a student of Professor Samuel Huntington. And Professor Samuel Huntington in 1993 has published an article in Foreign magazine, Foreign Affairs magazine in the USA regarding clash of civilization. And in 1996, he has published a book regarding this topic, clash of civilization. After that, many people tried to write about this topic and said, we do not agree with that. We are going to have dialogue for civilization. But actually, in reality, we had so many problems in different societies. And right now, we have a war in Russia and Ukraine. And that's not really good time, because this war could affect all economy, a big inflation in Europe and the other countries because of, lack of oil and gas resources, and increasing the cost of transportation, and then all goods. But we hope we can try to make the world a better place for living and solve all these challenges and problems at the moment we have. And actually, one of the main challenge we are facing in this time in the modern age is not having a dynamic society, because people in different countries, they are less focusing on ethics, behavior, and values. And that's why we are focusing on socio-cultural capital, which Professor Samuel Huntington in 1996 says, in the near future, we are not going to decide about, our future by political parties. Cultural parties, they have more important, or the most important role, vital role for the future. That's why now we are going to face with future concern. We need to forecast, prevent, and get ready for facing with the future concern. One of the most important points after environmental responsibility is social cohesion. That's why today we have different speakers from different sectors. For example, Dr. Yanki from business and management marketing sector from University of Indonesia. She already published a book regarding Corona and some solutions for the world after Corona. Professor Giuseppe Bellia from Belgium, but he's originally from Italy, but he will talk about some experience he had with his student in Belgium in this regard. We have Professor Juncker in Germany. He had already did some research regarding information and informatic sustainability. That's why he will go to talk about some experience about online social platforms. And also we have my lovely colleague, Professor Carsten Domann. We are very happy to have you here, Carsten. He is a colleague of me in Berlin. He's a professor for international technology transfer management. He was for some years advisor for some technological company in Germany. That's why he will show us a result of his Erasmus Plus project he has already did in Germany and European Commission. And we have the other speakers that they are not yet here, but we will have them soon. Professor Dario Assante from Rome University in Italy, and Mrs. Sanila from Copenhagen, Denmark. Okay. Now I would like to invite Professor Giuseppe Bellia, Dean of the Business School in Brussels. Professor Bellia, please shortly introduce yourself, and you can present your presentation in 8 to 10 minutes. Please start.
Hello, good afternoon, Dr. Hamid. Thanks for having me. Good afternoon, esteemed colleagues. My name is Giuseppe Bellia. I'm the Dean of a business school in Brussels, called the UBI Business School. And I'm really happy to be here and delighted to have the opportunity to bring some contribution to the thematic of this webinar. So I would start by saying that, you know, at the very beginning, what brought my attention to this webinar is the fact that UBI Business School has several campuses in different geographies. So we operate in Belgium, we operate in Luxembourg, we operate also in China and Shanghai. But I'm mentioning this not at all for marketing purposes, but more to catch the attention of everyone connected to this webinar to the importance of cultural diversity when it comes to student body, but also preservation of culture, which are surely two aspects that my colleagues will mention probably in their interventions as well. The thematic of a dynamic society in values and behaviors is absolutely a contemporary topic to discuss. But at the very beginning, Dr. Hamid, I wanted to give a perspective that was mainly academic. But then last weekend I was in Paris and I completely changed my mind and I decided basically to present this as a basically showing like a regular event in our daily life can bring us to the thematic you have chosen for the webinar. I was in Paris in a strategic and incredible place for art, Musée du Luxembourg, attending the exactly the art exhibition I'm now displaying. It's called Pionnière. It's female pioneers in art, and this is an basically an art exhibition agglomerating artworks from different female artists coming from different geographies and operating basically in Paris in a specific period which is called Les Années Folles, or in English, the Roaring Twenties. This is a period that goes between 1920 and 1929, where, you know, it's important to know two factors. So first of all, it's a rare event when women had a lot of attention on their artistic production. This has never come into force any longer. And the second thing is that this period is between the two worldwide wars. So it means that we are immediately after the First Worldwide conflict, which means that the people want to take ownership of life, want to enjoy life again, they want to celebrate, they want to party, and that is the reason why it's called the Les Années Folles. It's in short the operating time of multiple female artists that start basically expressing themselves in a non-seen yet way. And one of those is my favorite artist from Poland. Her name is Tamara de Lempicka, and she is, according to me, the probably best representation of Art Deco. What is interesting, I want your attention on on the central picture, is the fact that in this period, basically there is a societal change, thanks to the contribution of these women who started changing the way people look at life, bringing to the table things that are absolutely against a conservative way, conservative values, or conservative manners of looking at life. For example, they started representing relationships that go against, let's say, a traditional model man-woman, and they started representing relationships woman-woman, thinking that this is a change in the shift society can take at the relationship level between human beings. What is interesting out of this exhibition is also the striking effort that women, French women at that time, or women in France, they tried to do to acquire a basic important right, which is the right to vote. And we know that if you acquire this right, you have basically the opportunity to make a difference in society, changing the legislation, changing also the way things are operated. Now, I took my notes in this interesting exhibition that I invite everyone to visit to give you an extent of these striking efforts that they did. For example, it was only 1919 when, for the first time, the Chamber of Deputies starts even debating that women can have this right of voting. Of course, the senators opposed themselves, but as a term of comparison, the UK women basically voted for the first time in 1928, and women in my country, we have to wait until 1945. It's for the first time in 1925 when we have the first strike from women employees of the National Postal Service asking for equal salaries allocated to male employees. This sounds very contemporary. It's 1925, but I can tell you we had a strike last week in Brussels exactly for the same reason. So all these thematics are still applicable to the present. When I look at 1930, Susie Borrell becomes the first embassy attaché. We have to wait until much later, 1967, to have the first female consul, and we have to wait until 1972 to have the first, basically, French ambassador, which means that I was already 1 year old. At that time, I was already 1 year old, which means that every time we talk about the discrimination, when we talk about non-equal distribution of rights, sometimes in literature, in publications, we take mental distance like this is something in the past, but I want to demonstrate that this still affects behaviors and values in the present time. If I have to break down the messages I received from this art exhibition, the exhibition talks about discrimination on a social and legal perspective, lack of inclusion, because we need a broader perspective coming equally from all human beings, lack of ethics, because it's all about deciding what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, and also understanding why something is perceived by us like something good or something bad. So who influences us in perceiving this as a positive or negative manner? But then also equality, which means equal opportunity. But the most important thing that I took out of this exhibition is gender equality. Why I'm talking about gender equality? It's very simple, because I asked myself, let's understand after more than 10 years where we are at in society today. And what I see still is that women are still fighting for their rights, which are human rights. These are not female rights. And more interestingly, what I wanted to demonstrate is that this goal is on a higher level taken as one of the most important 17 SDGs. SDG stands for Sustainable Development Goal, from basically the United Nations in their agenda for 2030, where the goal for gender equality is number 5. This gives us the extent of how important for all state members it is acquiring gender equality, together with other goals like reducing poverty, neutralizing hunger, improving the health of global citizens, giving access to more solid and higher quality education, and so on. So gender equality is something we are still striking. And this is part of what we can basically define as sustainable development. A lot of my students, as I said, we have different campuses, they actually confuse a bit sustainable development with sustainability. And I tell them that this is not the same. Sustainability is the end goal that we want to achieve, while sustainable development is the set of processes that we put in place in order to reach the final goal, which is sustainability. For example, having, sustainable consumption, sustainable production. These are all processes to reach sustainability. The most important thing to understand is that in any contemporary strategy, I see sustainable development being part of them, but we need to understand that sustainable development is not targeting fixing problems just in the present time. It is more like this definition taken from the UN is for basically taking opportunity open for future generations to reach also absolutely their needs. So we are working also to give this opportunity to future generations. When I look at UNESCO, we have, some dimensions, 4 dimensions in total: society, environment, culture, and economy. Why I put culture in bold? Because I think, and I'm fully convinced that culture is the focus on any strategy, is the baseline that glues all the other dimensions. I can use culture to promote society, to promote personal and professional development. I can use culture to promote environment. For example, natural preservation. I can use culture to boost the economy. I don't know, I'm Sicilian. My region lives around, spins around tourism. So I can, thanks to culture, promote tourism. I can promote handicraft. So culture is indeed the aspect that cannot be missed in any sustainable development strategy. Now, to end my presentation, what is interesting, and this is the message to pass to new generations, is also measure, goals. Each goal is a deliverable. We have a deadline. According to the UN, all these goals should be achieved by 2030. But where are we at this stage? We are in 2022. I enjoyed myself by checking the United Nations Secretary General report, and basically news are not that positive. They say that, for example, because of the COVID-19 crisis, the effects that are catastrophic on the lives of all global citizens are basically postponing the achievement of all these goals. In specific goal number 5, this is part of the report. I understand that for them, it is not possible by now, 2022, to reach this goal by 2030. Why this? Because still in 2022, women are victims of violence at home. They don't have decision-making positions. They don't have access to specific and solid education and so on. All this reminds us that the change is more in the hands of the next generations and not of people in our generation. But my point is that the young generation is going to be the new regulators who will make this change happen. So for us, it is absolutely of paramount importance to pass the message that their individual and also collective contribution will make an impact to make us progress on the sustainable development chapter. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Bellia, for very amazing presentation. That was really interesting for me, the points you mentioned regarding ethic, values, behavior, especially for the human rights and women's rights. Actually, according to my research regarding cultural dimensions, I would say this research you did also is different in different cultures, because when we go, for example, to feminine Western culture, the human rights and women's rights is different with collectivism, non-West culture, when they are more masculine. That's why I would say your presentation was very interesting, but of course, if you go to more details, then you can also talk about cultural dimensions in Western and non-Western culture. Thank you so much, Professor Bellia.
Thank you.
Now I would like to invite Professor Horst Juncker to start his presentation. Professor Juncker, please. You have 8 to 10 minutes.
Präsentation hochladen.
Wait a minute. Which one is this one?
Ja, dann da fertigstellen oder freigeben.
Okay.
Dann ist sie sichtbar.
That's my presentation. I hope I can make it work that.
Yeah, we can see your presentation, Professor Juncker.
Okay, fine.
Maybe you can start from the first slide.
Yeah. I would talk about the sustainability information systems. That means if you look to sustainability within companies, you must support sustainability by information systems. Otherwise, the material is so much complex that you have no chance to introduce sustainability within the company. And therefore, I will talk about what can we do to develop information systems concerning sustainability in companies. As we've seen before, sustainability is three pillars: economy, ecology, social. That means we have three pillars, and most important is for developing information system that we integrate these three pillars. So, for example, like this, the main important thing is to integrate economic effects, ecology effects, and social aspects. So, look into information systems. Normally, in the past, we developed economical information systems. That's what we did normally in this way. Oh dear, what happens here? I don't know what happens in this way. First of all, we try to find out what is the actual situation concerning information systems within the company. Knowing what we have, then we try to plan targets. From that, we derive a strategy. And after that, we try to plan information systems and so on. So that is typical for, let's say, economical information systems. The main problem is that we know a lot of what is economy in the company. So going to sustainability information systems, we have to develop a multi-dimensional target systems. In this economic information management, we know we have a one-dimensional target system, means we have only to reflect economic targets. So when we do that, it's very easy. We have a long tradition in business administration. We know what are economic targets, and therefore it's not too difficult to find out what should be the targets in an economic information system. So look into sustainability targets. That systems should be three-dimensional. The one thing, and the other thing is that the targets are at least partly unexplored. We do not know where, we do know very much about economical targets because we are working about that for, let's say, more than 50 years. We know a lot about ecological targets because, at least in Germany, we are working about that since the 70s of last century. What we do not know exactly are what is a social target system within a company. So that's what I mean when I said the targets are partly unexplored. So that means we have to find out target relations between the three pillars, and then we can hope at least that it will be possible to develop a sustainability information system. So first of all, we have to find out concerning the integration of the three pillars. Is it possible to develop a three-dimensional target system? In the past, we tried to develop a two-dimensional target systems concerning the in-house logistics. And two-dimensional means a target system of an economic and ecological target systems. And we found out that 42% of these targets are complementary, 46 are neutral, and we have 12% of conflict targets. So that means in the end, it will be possible to develop a two-dimensional economic ecological target system. So when we try to develop a three-dimensional target system, then we, first of all, we have to find out this target system. That means for a certain company, we have to find out what is a common multidimensional sustainability target system. Then again, due to the information management, we have to try out what is the concrete situation in a company. Then we have to develop an enterprise-specific sustainability target system, and then develop a strategy. And after that, we can develop sustainability information system planning. So what we have to do is, first of all, to develop a common multidimensional sustainability target systems, what we did not have until now. So what we did in the past is, we first of all should develop three independent, unindependent target systems for all the three pillars. Then we have to develop, for each of these pillars, we have to gather targets. What we did in the past, we found about 500 operational targets. So these targets should be then developed in three different pyramids of targets, like this one. And after that, we have to develop a pyramid, the three-dimensional target pyramid. So having that, then we have done the first step in what I showed you before. Then we have this common multidimensional sustainability target system. And then after having that, then we can try to go in the concrete situation of a concrete company, try to find out what is the actual situation of sustainability within the company. And after that, we can develop a certain sustainability information system planning for a company. And then we can develop sustainability information system for a concrete company. That's what I want to tell. And that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Yonka, for your interesting presentation with the focus on sustainability in information systems. That was really interesting. We are going to have discussion at the end of all the speeches, and I have some questions I will ask you. Thank you so much. Now I would like to invite Dr. Yanki Hartijasti to start your presentation. Dr. Hartijasti is Assistant Professor in Marketing and Business Management in University of Indonesia. Dr. Hartijasti, you can start.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being invited here. And hello to all. Today I'm going to talk about the ethics, value, and behavior in a dynamic societies post-COVID through socio-cultural capital. Once again, I am Yanki Hartijasti from Faculty of Economics, Universitas Indonesia. So let me first show you what will be the future of work trends post-pandemics. So there will be shortage of critical talents. Turnover will increase. Managers' roles are changing, a widening digital divide, and disrupted social interaction. By the way, I'm talking more on the behavior because my focus is more on the human resource management. So I will now talk more about the shortage of critical talent and the turnover. What will be what was the workers' attitude about their job post-pandemic? This is based on Prudential survey. Workers post-pandemic will prefer to continue working remotely, minimum 1 day a week, work in a hybrid workplace, and look for the new opportunities once pandemic has subsided. Why talent workers leave the company? Yeah, that's why there was a shortage. Because they said, they can. Why? Because they're confident to find work whenever they are ready. Yeah. And especially they have access to more information nowadays through social media. And they are also upset because of the uncaring leaders, lack of career advancement, and also exhausted, like what we already experienced, right, for the past 2 years. Some of them have poor mental health, like burnout, stress, or maybe family care demand. Why talent workers return to work? Yeah. They say, I want to. But if the company have professional development, career advancement, flexible work arrangement, work-life balance, and support for mental health and physical health. Challenges of business leaders post-pandemic. We also have to know this one, right? So the most important is changing business trends and hyper competition. So pandemic has significantly increased competition among businesses across all industry. So they must be agile by doing rapid transformation to reevaluate business strategies to find new revenue generation opportunities. If they are overthinking and conservative, they will not succeed. Yeah, this is based on also a survey. Another challenge is keeping up with digital technologies. So many companies have extensive digitalization plans spread across several years, but the pandemic compelled them to compress the processes into a few months. Yeah, that's why nowadays they need a long-term digitalization plan must be to offer maximum value to customer online. So how about to engage customer post-pandemic? In digital world, we should be transparent about how customer data will be used when delivering personalized experience. Yeah, because in the past 2 years, we were doing all the transaction mostly online. So data privacy is very dangerous, right? So that's why companies should manage first-party data instead of using data from third-party. And government should tighten data privacy regulation. The company should also offer hybrid experiences to meet customer choice, such as third-party delivery, self-service, voice-assisted purchase journeys, or in-store shopping with simpler and faster service. Or they can also use artificial intelligence-enabled customer service to resolve common customer queries. So therefore, companies should increase convenience to create meaningful interaction with customer. So what would be the ethic, values, and behavior for business sustainability post-pandemic? So if I relate it to my published book, which is called Resilient Amid a Pandemic, Learning from Bacteria, which was published last June 2021, I abbreviated into 5 abbreviate this one from 5 tips. So this is the keys when facing with dark times. Dark time means crisis or whatever it is. So the first K is creative, then discipline, adaptive, resilient, and collaborative. So the first one, I will begin with the first one. So be creative and innovative in finding solutions or opportunities when changes keep occurring. Even in Chinese, in Mandarin words, crisis, or they call it weiji, there is 2 words, it's danger and opportunity. It means that behind every crisis, there will be an opportunity. That's why we know that creativity can solve almost any problem. The second one is discipline and transparent in obeying rules and regulation, especially data privacy in the digital world. So discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. Once you become disciplined, I'm sure that the company will also, they will be also getting the trust. The third one is be adaptive to respond quickly without losing momentum, just like during the pandemic. So many companies, they don't want to transform their digital. So, but once the pandemic comes, so they must change, right? Or else they will die. So they even like to live the contactless technology. Yeah, that's why adaptability is the simple secret of survival. The fourth one is be resilient to bounce forward. Yeah, so from impossible to I am possible when faced with internal and external challenges. So we should get rid of the negative energy and be positive when faced with shortage of talent or customer complaint. So resilient is accepting our new reality, even if it's less good than the one we had before. And the last one is collaboration between several parties to achieve a sustainable business. So collaboration even between the leader and the staff, the followers, or the government and the organization, and between departments. Usually departments, we have ego sectoral, like finance will have fights with the sales people. That's why we have to collaborate. And we should also collaborate maybe with the community around us, and don't forget to avoid the hoax news. So alone we can do so little. Together we can do much. So ethics, values, and behavior in the dynamic society post-COVID through socio-cultural capital. As a rational human being, do not be defeated by the virus, usually in the form of unwillingness to be adaptive in time of crisis. So remember, K-Dark, be creative, disciplined, adaptive, resilient, and willing to collaborate. Enjoy our digital world as if it is another cultural journey, but don't forget to keep in touch and be happy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Yanki, for your very interesting presentation. And that was really interesting topic regarding to ethic, values, and behavior in post-pandemic era after Corona. And I would have some questions I will ask you after all speeches, they finish the presentation. Thank you so much. Now I would like to ask my dear colleague, Professor Carsten Domann from Berlin, who is a professor in international technology transfer management. Professor Carsten Domann, is your turn, and you have 8 to 10 minutes to do your presentation.
Yeah, thank you, dear colleague Hamid, for this invitation, also to giving me the opportunity. And yeah, welcome, dear colleagues worldwide, for this Friday afternoon, late Friday afternoon event. Yeah, it's fine to see you, and also maybe just thanks for the previous presentations. That was quite interesting, really, and gives also some links back or links forward to my own presentation, indeed. And maybe just I have also an opportunity to touch a little bit here and there some of the talks of the previous speakers. So I just switch into the full screen modus, and hopefully it works on your side and you can see it. Yeah, that is a huge topic. Yeah, as you know it, dynamic. Yeah, what is dynamic and what is exactly the society? And then it becomes more complicated to check out what are the typical values. And then if we are looking into the human mankind, there are unbelievable amount of behaviors available. But also having a look into this introduction screen, I would say the new steps forward into technologies, giving us new opportunities and also a lot of challenges what we have to solve, and where we have to find some proper answers to create also in a post-pandemic time, and also to go in, let's say, safe steps forward into the next decade of our life. So I have put it in here, some slides for all of you. The first one is here, maybe just you are familiar with that. That is Hamid's fifth wave theory. You have it seen in several previous events or conferences maybe. And there's just on the right corner on top, the most important statement in this long or in this huge graphics. KTB, as knowledge, business, and technology, and this is touched or supported from the basics of society 6.0 or whatever stands behind. So the society that's clear, represented by all of us, and we are looking also here in Berlin. That is my my campus or my venue where I'm sitting here, with our European partners in several European projects. What can we do to reach that point where we can connect the next generation of workforces, the younger generations, our students, and then the existing, also to touch the existing needs of the previous existing industry. So, and we are looking into this field from different perspectives. And I guess all of you colleagues, you are doing the same. No, we have checked out the generation developments, generation X, epsilon, and something else set. But that is the most important here, the generation smartphone. And it is really remarkable how the younger generation has focused their entire life or lives on the internet and on their tiny smartphones. Yeah, if I look into the behaviors of my students, nothing works without the smartphones anymore. And that's complicated and also for the employment market in the future. That is a point where all of us is faced. Everything must be easier, more uncomplicated. It must be always now and immediately available and usable. And more, that is here also a point, a bullet point, more is just enough. That is the expectation, from this new generation of work power. And always these technologies and tools and methodologies must be ready to run. So the status quo is here listed in some long questions. You can just read it by yourself. I can share it also later with you, and you can just read it by yourself. But we have different questions, and we ask it here, the community, would you be able to use new technologies? In which form, in which kind, in which manner? And we focused here step by step in AR, augmented reality, and VR, virtual, and then the next generation, nobody knows exactly what it is, XR, mixed realities. But at the end, by doing a lot of surveys and questionnaires, doing interviews, talks, visitings in companies, we figured out organizational change is definitely necessary. We need plans, we need everything which is listed here in this table. But at the end, we have a huge, interesting issue. And that is that the number of freelancers, people who want to work independently, increased dramatically. That is the latest statistics from the European Commission. And I figured out this this morning, and it shows around about 18 to 19 million people want to live this freelancer life. And that is also a point what my colleagues, previous speakers mentioned a little bit and touched. Also, they are always online and social media. They are well connected worldwide. They are independent in their time management, and they want to have it. And they have special needs for specific co-working spaces all over the world. So what do we have to do is we have to think a little bit different. Now we have to leave back the old patterns. We have to create new opportunities. That's a dramatic management picture here. But what we also see is the technical world is well connected, and we have to find as humans a way to get part of this. We must also connect it, and we have to take also the control of this, let's say, Industry 4.0 connected and well digitalized world. And that's not easy. In other words, the networking, Industry 4.0, is technical feasible. But the question is for us, how can we just create the interfaces for ourselves? And the big question is also how to activate these interactions that we can communicate with this digitalized cloud-based world. So it is clear we need skills or resources at the beginning, technical resources, or we need specific knowledge resources. We need skills, we have to activate them, and then we have to fill in and run out these actions. Everything is totally complex. We have to scale up. We have to make sure that everything works a little bit independent, or as most as we can allow, and it's really dynamic. That also what Ms. Yanki mentioned a little bit before. And here in this case, I like also the term which Guiseppe put in. You called it inclusion. Yeah, I just interpret this picture exactly with the same term. Yeah, there's a big inclusion what we have to control. So at the end, we are going out from sequential work. We are going out from pooled work. We are just starting with this freelancer opportunities in minds and challenges, and reciprocal networking between humans and machines, yeah, or computer and later artificial intelligence. That's the next step. So the only constant parameter is here the time, and as you know, we mostly don't have enough time to implement all these new things. So here we have to train managers, we have to train the next generation of managers, our students, to identify the right parameters, to manage these parameters, and also to find opportunities to connect these parameters to each other under specific circumstances in the individual fields of industries. So dynamic and complexity, that is so far clear. At the end, we are coming out with the term digitization everywhere for all of us. But if we're looking here in the statistics, Europe doesn't play an important role, not yet. So we have to make sure that we get in touch with the leading nations. And definitely also Germany itself is not in the top, under the top 10. We are just somewhere else in the middle field. And also if we just compare the European Union as an entire body, as you can see here, we are not playing an important role. So we have to go forward here, and it's good that we have also a meeting like this one here on Friday evening to share some information, to learn from each other. Let me come back for a short second here to the digitization. Also we made a look into the XR technologies, and we figured out that most of the people from student side and also from at higher education sides are interested to use these technologies. There are a lot of things that should be taken into account to make a proper implementation. I don't want to touch this in too much details. We figured also out in statistical forms the specific needs and does and don't and something else, and also the fields of implementation or application fields is more or less clear. It's the same what we had since the last 10 years, and it will be also activated in the next 10 years. The point, what we are focusing here at the Campus Berlin of the Fachhochschule des Mittelstands, University of Applied Science, is we are just training the trainer. We are just teaching the students to get familiar with these new technologies. We are just telling them how easy it is to do the unboxing. We are just surprising ourselves how surprised our students are, how easy it is. And then we are just giving them an opportunity to do the things, to check it out. Yeah. And then they are just learning and getting the experience. They feel happy. They have hopefully for the future and better feeling to enjoy these next steps, how to do or implement a specific work. Yeah. And hopefully they will use it. So that is an overview. As you can see, management slide, everything is positive, of course, strong and sometimes also strange opportunities, but it is feasible. It is possible to implement these challenges, to invite, let's say, teachers or professors from other disciplines, other non-technical departments, to use these new technologies. So, on the other hand, also the opportunities for small and medium-sized enterprise, that is my specific focus, also please do not wonder. Yeah, maybe it is also valid for multinational concerns, but mostly here for the backbone of the German industry, that is really important. No? Also testing, less travels, that is the environmental aspect. Oh my God, everything is here included more or less. So, conclusion, yeah, I want to come to and have to come to an end. The point is, the people have a specific imagination, what is possible, what should be done in digitization, but they need a platform to talk, to communicate to experts which are able to implement that. We did this, that is the blue picture here on the right side. We have created a specific free available, as a free of charge available virtual room via internet, and here you can just put in your own content, and then you can share this content in a virtual manner with others. That is easy to implement, easy to activate, and all you need is a computer and an internet connection. So that works. Coming to a scientific perspective, we have work psychology, we have organizational psychology, and all these things. Maybe you have seen this picture in some books, or maybe just you have written it by yourself. At the end, in the middle, we have the individuals, and that is the next point I would say. We need more professionalization, yeah, and not between technical versus non-technical, that's on the other side here, between technical and non-technical industry fields or experts. So, and if we can just overcome this gap, installing here, let's say, a knowledge transfer bridge, then I would say the future is lightened. Yeah, we have more and better, hopefully, management skills available, easier to implement. We are on a good way that the innovations are going forward to increase the usability. Yeah, we can see it here in the virtual reality world. Facebook has announced 1 or 2 weeks ago the next generation as a prototype of VR glasses. It comes better in all aspects. The interfaces to bring our existing content into these virtual reality worlds is easier, let's say, per week. And also, let's say the target groups are addressed and they are waiting for our input from the science side. Gentlemen, and also the ladies, that is my part. Here, if you feel free, or you just should feel free to contact me, that's mine. And then I hand over back to Hamid. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carsten, Domann, my colleague, my dear colleague. That was really interesting presentation. In your presentation, we could see focus on technology side of this sustainability regarding dynamic society, values, behavior, and ethics. And in your presentation, some words was really, bold. As you mentioned, my fifth wave theory, the Society 6.0 and KTB model, knowledge, technology, and management. And you try to show us how we can prepare one step before, because you mentioned innovation, digitalization, and also culture. They have a vital role to prepare ourselves for future and also dynamic society. We are going to have discussion after end of our presentation. Thank you so much. Now, I would like to invite my dear friend, my dear colleague, Professor Dario Assante from Italy, from Distance University in Roma. Professor Assante, please, you have 10 minutes.
Thanks a lot, Professor Doost. Thanks a lot for the invitation. In my presentation, I would like to discuss about ethical issues in the digital society. As also said in the previous presentation, our society is changing a lot thanks to the advent of new digital technologies, and this introduced several new ethical issues too. In my presentation, in 10 minutes, I would like to stress just on three aspects. One is about privacy, so data collection, consent, and privacy. One is about algorithm bias and objectivity, and one is about social media ethics. For sure, we are, if we are aware or not, but it's a matter of fact that we are in the big data era. This means that we consciously or unconsciously produce a huge amount of data. Each day, 2.5 quintillion of data bytes are generated every day. Google, that of course keep tracks of every activity that is done on its platform, actually records about 3.5 billion searches per day. And just to have an idea of the self-production of data, in 2020, every person generated 1.7 megabytes. 1.7 megabytes is not so much, but the problem is that 1.7 megabytes per second, 1.7 megabytes per second, it's an incredible amount of data. So we produce information about ourselves, about what we do, about our life, about our interaction. This generates some, of course, some problems. First of all, there are just some classification. The data collection can be active or passive. Active data collection is when I'm aware that I'm sharing some information. For example, when I'm filling a form, this is an active data collection. And there are few concerns about that because I'm aware that I'm doing that. But there is also a passive data collection that is done automatically. For example, when I'm in a station, there is the advice, video surveillance. It means that somebody is taking a video of me, so it's collecting information about me, even if I'm not sharing this anything, but they are doing in a passive way. And also the data collection, especially the passive one, can be conscious or non-conscious. The conscious is when I'm aware. So when I'm in the station, I read information, the video surveillance data collection. Okay, somebody's collecting data, but I'm conscious about that. The most risky aspect is the unconscious data collection that happens when somebody collects information about me when I'm not informed. The point is that also due to the huge amount of data that we produce and that we are not able to control in any moment, many of us does not know what for what purpose data are collected and are used, and by which organization are collected and how they are shared. Sorry for the repetition. Okay, this is generating a lot of concern about privacy. So in this moment, if you discuss about privacy, people seems that is something that is one of the value that is high risk and must be strongly defended in our society. These are produced several aspects. First of all, the crime has shifted its attention from traditional crime to cybercrime because there are new opportunities connected to data, to the access to unprotected data. There is, in several fields, an untrustfulness of people toward technology because people think that technology can steal and keep data, and also this brings to several legal issues. For example, Europe is blocking several US services from sharing data. There are issues between Europe and Google or the platform that keep and store data outside Europe. So it seems that we must fight for our privacy. But I would like to say, is it so correct? I would like to make an example of what happened in Italy with two cases during the pandemic. At the beginning of the pandemic in Italy, the Immuni app has been released. Immuni app was a very, very clever app used to track, to help people to prevent the diffusion of the pandemic. How? Through app installed on mobile phone and through mobile Bluetooth connection, the app was able to inform the owner of the mobile phone if he was in touch with other people that declared to be positive. So in this way, the person was informed and can take countermeasures. There was a very, very high level of privacy because data were not collected in a central system. There was a double encryption system. So the people was only alerted about the contact, but nobody was able to understand who was the positive person. However, there was a very, very low impact of this app. Almost nobody used it in Italy. At the same time, there was a government initiative giving a cashback for the transaction done using credit cards. So it was an initiative for promoting the digital commerce. In order to have that, you have to install on your mobile phone an app where you have to declare all your credit cards, you have to declare all your electronic transaction, and so you have to share a huge amount of personal data. This app has a high impact. Now, why the one that had to protect you from COVID had a low diffusion and the app for cashback had a high diffusion? What are the concerns about privacy? The problem is that privacy has a price. In the Immuni app, you didn't get any revenue for installing the app. And so people say, okay, but even if there are very, very, very few concerns about privacy, why to risk? Instead, in the cashback app, people say, okay, I share my personal data. So there is a loss of privacy, but instead of that, I get some money back. So all the fight for protecting privacy stops when I can get money. So it's not true that privacy is the most important thing. Privacy has a price. Artificial intelligence and bias. Now, just to say, machine learning is a branch of artificial intelligence designed to aiming to design systems that are able to self-learn. And machine learning tools are very efficient for tasks like monitoring, classification, and detection. And now there is a high diffusion of these technologies. In particular, the most popular is supervised machine learning. Supervised machine learning, well, is a machine learning technique based on training. By the way, I have a set of animals. I can say to the machine, okay, this is a dog, this is a cat, this is a cow. I provide to the machine a data set with a classification. So the machine trains itself to recognize pictures of this kind of code. After the training, the machine is able to automatically classify new pictures. So after the training, I can show a new picture to the machine and can say this is a cat or instead this is a dog. Okay, so training and then execution for classification. Now, it's important to say that this system that apparently works very well and has a lot of application in the industrial sector, in several fields of our, is already used in several fields of our life, may include biases. A bias in the evaluation happens when it's a distorted evaluation of the system due to that allow the system to make mistakes. Why there is it's easy to create a bias if there is a bias in the data set. This is a high risk this is considered a high risk in machine learning. For example, if used in those systems, artificial intelligence with biases may lead to false arrests in healthcare, to negative healthcare outcomes, or to bad mass surveillance. I mean, if badly trained, machine learning tool can produce bad evaluation that may lead to mistakes. Recently, the European Union Artificial Act has classified the artificial intelligence at high risk if it can harm a person's health, safety, or infringe on fundamental rights. So the point is that in which field artificial intelligence is used. So that would suggest not to use in these fields. Well, machine learning has been used massively in this year for recruiting. When human resource officers receive huge amount of application, might decide to use machine learning to make a first evaluation and try to find the best, the most suitable candidate for the position. Well, there are some documented examples of biases in the evaluation due to the fact that machine learning here selected men more than women. Why? Because machine learning were trained on the selection of the past year. And in the past, men were selected more than women. So, due to the wrong training, machine learning had a bias in the evaluation and selected more men. Machine learning in law. In the US, there is a machine learning-based system that is currently used to evaluate the risk of relapse or criminals. And it is used to increase or decrease the possible condemn. There are documented examples of biases in the judgment of Black people. So the machine learning tool is, due to the bias on the evaluation, is considered that Black people are more propensity to relapse than white people. And so there are a lot of criticism about the use of machine learning for recruiting, about the use of machine learning in the law system. What I would like to say that artificial intelligence may have biases, but humans, for sure, they have. This picture is about the execution of Geoffrey Sidney, that was a 14 years old Black child. He was condemned to death with a very criticized process for a crime that he did not committed. After 70 years, it was proved that he was fully innocent. But after studying the sentence, it was found that the jury was induced to imagine that he was a criminal, mainly because he was a black child. So I would like to say, artificial intelligence may have biases, but humans have biases with the small difference. If you find a bias in an artificial intelligence tool, you can correct the code, and so you can quickly improve it. If you find a bias in humans, you may need hundreds of years without removing it. And additionally, artificial intelligence may have biases, but this is about how the tool is coded. Then it produces an objective evaluation according to the code. There is no subject to corruption, is not subject to any factor, any external factor. Instead, humans are not. Social media ethics. Nowadays, there are several issues about the impact of the social ethics in companies and employees. Social media now consider a place where everybody, unfortunately, I have to say, can say whatever he wants, and apparently even something that he would not say face by face, because they are protected by a screen, so are more free than in face-to-face interactions. There are several concerns about the rule of companies toward the employees. So if employees have a bad social reputation or bad social attitude, that can include bad conduct, insults, bullies, racial comments, criticism of the company. Is it correct if the company acts against the employee or punishing it or eventually firing it? The point of the discussion seems to be that social media are responsible. Basically, the point is that if the employee has a bad reputation, this reflects on the reputation of the company. So who is the responsible in all the project? The responsible is the technology, is the advent of social media. So what should I do? The solution that is commonly found in this moment is to introduce a social media policy. So I explain how the employees should act on the web. Is it the correct solution? From my point of view, the answer is no, because the problem is not if your employee has social, racism, losism, or bad expression on the web. The problem is not to say avoid to use bad expression, because he will use as well going outside at the bar with friends. The problem is to train the employees to the education and to respect. So not just limit them. So the responsible is not the technology, is not the social media. The responsible is the ethics of person. And so this way I would like to go to conclusion. There is this nice sentence quotation: it's not whether machines think, but whether men do. I would like to say the real problem is not whether technologies have an ethic, but whether men have it. And with this consideration, I conclude my speech and I invite you to some reflection.
Okay, Professor Dario Assante, very, very interesting presentation. We are very thankful for your interesting presentation. I would like to say Professor Assante is a professor for electrical engineering, and he tried to do a speech, regarding our dynamic society, behavior, ethic, values, but with technological approach, AI, machine learning. And as Professor Bellia had already written in the group, there is a documentary on Netflix regarding to machines and racist technology. That's very interesting because when we talk about dynamic society, we just think reality, but actually we have also in virtual reality, because dynamic society also happened when we are using the online society. Exactly during the corona, we had so many cases in this issue, and that's very important. In your presentation, Professor Assante, you already mentioned the price of security, and I think this is also one point we can do discussion after all, because we have one more presentation, and then we are doing discussion regarding to your very interesting presentation. Thank you so much. I would like to invite our last presenter, Professor Kamal Zehraoui from Morocco. Professor Kamal, you have 10 minutes to do your presentation. Thank you so much. Please.
Hello, everyone. Excuse me, Dr. Hamid, for the delay. It's Friday today and time for prayer. So excuse me for the delay. I'm Kamal Zehraoui from Morocco. I work as a professor at Assante University and data mining statistic expert. Our topic today, let me show the screen. It's good?
Yeah.
Okay, so our topic today is about the role of education and language as tools for the socio-economic integration of sub-Saharan migrants in Morocco. Before showing you the result, let me remind you that measuring the integration, migrant integration, the concept of migrant integration is really very fast as concept, and it's difficult to measure the integration. So before showing the result, let me remind that integration, we can define integration by two dimensions: sociocultural dimension and economic integration. Sociocultural integration means religion, language, etc. And economic integration means the capacity of the migrants to get job. We work in a simple with 200 migrants, sub-Saharan migrants in Morocco, and we use our statistical technique to measure the impact of language, the impact of education into the sub-Saharan migrant integration. And we use MCA method. It's exploratory statistic method. The role of the MCA method is to measure an indicator of integration. So in front of you, you can see that we use a lot of independent variables like gender, like origins, and language. We use dialect. Language in Morocco, we use dialect, not French as language. We use dialect. Dialect is Darija, it's like Arab and French. We use it in Morocco as Darija. Now, our language indicator is Darija, dialect, and as I explained to you, we want to create an indicator of socio-cultural integration and economic integration. So we use the use of the method of MCA help us to construct an indicator based in independent variable, as I explained, like origin, religion, etc., etc. And we conduct logistic regression. Logistic regression, we use it when we have the dependent variable as qualitative one, and they take two values. One if the migrant is integrated, and 0 if not. We conduct two models. The first one about sociocultural integration, and we found that language impacts negatively the process of migrant integration. We use two modalities: 0 if the migrants don't speak a dialect, 1 if the migrants speak dialect. And we found that all migrants, sub-Saharan migrants if they don't speak dialect, they find a lot of difficulty to find social integration, as I explained below. Now about the second model is economic integration, and we found out language don't have a significant impact in economic integration. You can speak dialects or not. In Morocco, you can find job easily without a problem. Let me remind you that the concept of migration, as I explained before, cover various phenomena and cover a very wide field. As a result, measuring integration is really difficult and remain difficult. So the objective of our study is to conduct and to create an indicators of social culture integration and economic integration. In this way, the process of migrant integration include two dimensions. As I explained, the socio-cultural is measured by religion, language, and economic dimension is measured by the capacity and the ability of the migrant to find a job. By using the logistic model, we found that in the socio-cultural integration process, the language is have a really significant impact. Negative for those who don't speak dialect. Dialect mean Moroccan official language. And now for education, we didn't found a significant impact. We found that the people who have, let me found the word, excuse me, I didn't speak English very well, Arabic, French, and Hebrew, and little English. So I'm trying to find the right one. As I told you, the education variable, independent variable, don't have a significant impact of sociocultural and economic integration. And we found that the people and the migrants with the less study level can find a job easily in Morocco. You know, because in Morocco there is an informal party. Let me just found the right term to define the characteristic of the market Morocco. Okay, I'm trying to do my best, Dr. Hamid, to find in the right word. In Morocco, normally the people who have a less level of education find job easily because we didn't create a job for those who have a good level of education. Moroccan one don't have the capacity to find job, and they want to migrate outside Morocco. So to resume all this, the education variable and dependent variable impacts the socio-cultural in other ways. The person who have a less level of education find job easily, not like the others. So let me tell you that's what I want to say. And I want just to remember that measuring integration is still difficult because there are two dimensions of integration process. So that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Kamal, for your very interesting presentation. Regarding to your presentation, as you know, the fifth wave theory, my fifth wave theory, I have a model 7 pillars of sustainability, and there we have ecology or environment, economy, social, education, technique, politics, and culture. Regarding to your presentation, we could see economy is not an individual topic, and social cultural capital can influence economy, and by having dynamic society, we can improve our economy to move from developing countries or society to developed society. Then that's the point of your presentation. Thank you so much. Now I would like to start conclusion of the conference or webinar, because Mrs. Sanila Dethlefsen from Copenhagen, Denmark already wrote me. She is busy with the company meeting, and she was so sorry could not attend to the conference or webinar, and she said maybe for the next time. And now we have almost 15 minutes to conclude our webinar. Again, I would like to say and use this opportunity to say thank you so much for all respected speakers for your time in the Friday afternoon, evening, night, even night to attend to this webinar. But actually it was really, really interesting. I learned so much. And I would like, before we go to conclusion, I would like to kindly ask all respected speakers to send me your presentation file, because Saadi Institute of Berlin is going to publish them in one PDF file. That's why please send me your presentation file. Okay, I'm going to conclude our presentation today. We started to talk about dynamic society with the focus on values, ethics, and behavior through the social cultural capital. I tell you again, the publication of Professor Samuel Huntington in 1993 in Foreign Affairs magazine, and 1996 his book regarding Clash of Civilization. And also his student, Professor Yokohama, who published a book regarding social capital. In his book, he's talking about social capital can be positive and negative aspect for the society, because if we can manage our social capital and use them to develop our society, that would be best. But also regarding another topic which called cognitive warfare, the enemy of our society can use this social capital to do something against our culture and society. Because as I said, Professor Huntington in 1993 mentioned in the future, political parties are not going to decide about our future. Cultural parties are going to decide our future. And that shows culture has really the vital, important role. I'm going to the first presentation from Professor Giuseppe Bellia. He talked about women and human rights, and that was really interesting. But as you know, in different cultures, the issue regarding female or women is different, because some of the cultures, they are Western, they are more feminine culture, and some of them, they are non-Western and they are more masculine culture. That's why I would like to ask you, Professor Bellia, how we can manage it in the, in regard of dynamic society when we are in Western or feminine culture, or in non-West or masculine culture. How we can solve it, how we can manage it in this regard.
Thanks for the question. It's a very interesting point to understand here that, what we have been discussing so far, technology has made, shifting us to a different level. For example, mobility has never been that enhanced in our history as in the history of humankind, which means that we have the opportunity to move from a country to another. Many of my colleagues, for example, Kamal just mentioned, that people can get out of Morocco because they want to continue their studies or finding, opportunities, professional opportunities elsewhere. We continue as a business school to, on a daily basis, to receive applications from international students. So what happens here is that on one hand, we need to understand, we need to preserve the culture. So the risk or the danger of globalization is indeed of making cultures and subcultures disappear. So what it is important for us is the preservation of culture. For example, in Belgium, we have linguistic specific phenomenon where, the Flemish community enhances and allocates huge budgets to preserve the Flemish language and all the dialects connected to the Flemish language in order to keep these traits of culture alive, opposite to, let's say, amplify the impact of English in any professional exchange. Now, when it comes to culture is the way I dress, the way I eat, what I believe, my values, and so on. So the interesting part is that if we want to live in a dynamic society, it means also that we, on one hand, we need to keep our origins. This is what we need. We are all very proud of. I've been living almost a half of my life abroad, but I'm still Italian. I love Italian culture. I do believe in the values. So, you know, that somehow my entire education, my entire evolution as a person, I've been spinning around. However, I must say that living abroad has been teaching me as well on how to look at the same things I used to look when I was in Italy under a different perspective. What in here we have to consider is also that our way of looking at things is not necessarily the only way. This is what I mentioned at the very beginning, why I consider something good or something bad. I need to consider here that, yes, for me, something can still not be good, but I need to give a margin, giving others the opportunity of considering it, you know, bad for them or good for them. So the idea here is embracing others and not thinking in a stiff way that the way we approach things is the only way society can move.
Thank you so much for your very proper feedback. But now I'd like to ask another question, because you mentioned the word globalization. My question is from you and Dr. Yanki and also the others, because Dr. Yanki also mentioned the post-pandemic situation and K-Dark method she already mentioned. But the word globalization, as we know, since 2020, after we moved from epidemic to pandemic, and now for a remote world, and also the war in Ukraine and Russia, the situation is a little bit different. Currently, Economist magazine published a new magazine with a really interesting cover that called Goodbye Globalization. Actually, that means we are going to really say goodbye to globalization we already had. Now we are in a post-globalization era. And since last week, I have started to write an article about post-globalization era. That means, according to Emmanuel Strang, the philosopher in Europe, he already mentioned we are going to have to finish the superpowers, and we are going to have some powers. And that means the societies and dynamic societies and different definition is going to be different. That's why my question is, what do you think, also Dr. Yanki and the other respected speakers, what do you think about dynamic society with the focus on values, ethic, and behavior, not in globalization ways we had with the Western approach, with the new post-globalization era, which is a combination of all cultures? Can you hear?
Okay. So you want me to talk about the post globalization.
Yeah, post-globalization era, because as I said, currently Economist magazine said goodbye globalization. That means the globalization we already know with the Western approach is going to be completely finished, and we are going to have some powers in the world and new post-globalization era. That means we already moved from epidemic to pandemic, pandemic to remote world, and now post-globalization world.
Yes, okay. Yeah, because of pandemic now, we already think, reevaluate what's our strength. Yeah, each country are evaluating the strength and what's the weaknesses. So that's why we have to do the self-sufficient first. But for Asia, we must have a very connected social interaction, very strong social interaction, because we are more on the collectivist culture. So for post-globalization, I think it's not going to be very much affected to us, because even though we don't have to meet in person, we have the social media and we can be connected anytime, yeah, but in our own society, we can meet each other and keep connected and always collaborate with each other to support one another so that we can have a self-sufficient country. And I believe that we can do that if we use the K-Dark for sure. Yeah, be creative and then still disciplined so that the virus will be disappear step by step, and then always be adaptive to any kind of situation. Yeah, and then be resilient even though we face a failure in here and there. Yeah. So
thank you so much, Dr. Yanki. That means we are going to move from globalization to localization a little bit, because as you mentioned in Asia and non-West culture. Thank you so much. Now I would like to ask Professor Carsten Domann, my colleague, my dear colleague, because of your presentation regarding another view to technology with a focus on cultural view and innovation, what do you think, how we can use this technological background or platforms as an opportunity to move from a society with heavy inertia to a dynamic society, but with a focus on values, ethics, and behavior? Because sometimes when we talk about online platforms, or as the Professor Yunka said, information systems, sustainability, then we think then ethic, behavior, and values, they are in another, position, or with another key points to do evaluation. What do you think about this, Dr. Carsten?
Yeah, I would say that the definition of a value, of an economic value, must be changed, and should be more focused to, let's say, sustainable factors, or what we have nowadays in a public discussion. If we just integrate the anxious of the youth and the Fridays for Future. So here, it's at the moment not clear which kind of parameters should be identified or playing an important role at the moment. But the monetary factor, profit, should be redefined. Yeah, it is not only, let's say, a classical hard factor in forms of counting the money, and that should be also negotiated with different societies, or different participants who are representing in society, and that's an ongoing process at the moment.
That means, Dr. Carsten, we need to have a social cultural project in different cultures and make interviews, questionnaires.
Yes, just a moment, Hamid.
Okay, now we are going to Professor Dario Assante. I have a question regarding to your very amazing.
No, Hamid, you can just ask me again.
Okay.
You can ask me. There's a construction area beside.
Then, according to your explanation, the solution is to start a project, a social cultural project in different cultures, with doing interviews, questionnaires, talk to different people, different societies. They already move from a society with heavy inertia to dynamic societies with the focus on ethics, values, and behaviors, and how they can get success, how they can solve the social challenges and problems. And this is the solution you already mentioned, yes? And with using technologies, of course. Can you hear me, Carsten?
You always talk to me. I didn't get it. I am sorry.
I just said, because of your description, we need to make a social cultural capital project in different cultures, with using technologies, with interviews, questionnaires, with different people in different sectors, universities, institutions, schools, companies, business companies, entrepreneurs, researchers, to see different, views regarding dynamic societies, how we can get success, which kind of cultural challenges we are going to face, which kind of technological challenges, and etc.
Yeah, okay, I got it. I would say we as representatives of the higher education, we cannot just take care of all of these. Also, we have different discussions all over, let's say, the world.
Carsten, I mean not just you. I mean different partners, different partners from different sectors. That's different a project sectors. With different partners.
I know. I would say as long as we can just trigger as best as we can, and rethinking or new thinking processes with all the people we can just reach, then we have done a good job. Yeah. So that is also with these. I'm sorry, I not really know how to express it in English, but it's the same procedure like train the trainer. No? Also, if we can just use others as intermediaries or who are just taking forward this new knowledge,
that means
we have a specific way.
That's a very good point you mentioned. That means train the trainers. That means we are going to focus on competencies and skills, not just education.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Thank you so much, Carsten. Now I would like to ask Professor Assante, because of your amazing presentation, and Professor Bellia already mentioned a documentary on Netflix regarding to your presentation. I would like to ask you, because of the points you mentioned about technology, values, behavior, ethics, and artificial intelligence, the cost of security. I would like to ask you what you think about, because this technology has so many advantages, but also so many disadvantages. According to my first wave theory, after 2025, we are going to face with some of technological challenges and crises, because we already saw in so many science fiction movies, books, for example, Dr. Michael Crichton in Jurassic Park books tried to talk about future when we are going to have so much knowledge about genetics to make dinosaurs, but because we cannot control them, they are going to dominate people. Also, we have so many books from or movies about this from Isaac Asimov, Professor Isaac Asimov, from Future, when robots try to dominate people. Also, there are so many movies, documentaries on Netflix, YouTube regarding these intelligent robots they make, like Sophia. She already got a passport from Saudi Arabia, and the others. When they make a speech with them, they say, in the future, when robots dominate people, we don't forget you because you are creator of us. That's why we put you in people's zoo and try to be friendly with you. That means this is also about society, because that's very nice to have dynamic society, but sometimes having dynamic society with so much technology based is a little bit dangerous, because when technology is going to dominate us, how we can control it? As you mentioned, racist technology, then that's the point. How you can, talk about or make a solution for this kind of technological disadvantages when we are going to have dynamic society, Professor Assante?
How do you control? Okay, the question is, I don't know, because I cannot predict the future. However, I would like to say there is a nice story. There is a PC game called the Civilization. It was very popular. It was developed for about 20 years with a lot of improvements. The game is basically is about the story of humanity. You start from prehistory, and you have to make some choices in order to evolve your civilization and until the future society and to rule it. It was a very successful and nice game. About the studies about this game, about 5 years ago, that was a patch of the game released by Oxford University, developed with Stephen Hawking, that allowed to modify the game, and at a certain point, you were able to start the artificial intelligence. So you could create an artificial intelligence inside the game, and this could boost the improvement of your society. So everything was faster, and you grow faster. You have more resources, more benefits, and all. However, in the game, after a while, a timer started, and the artificial intelligence started to take control on your world. And so you see a progress bar, and the game starting to take control over the world. There was one way to stop the advance of the progress bar: invest on human research. So investing on research, you were able to take under control artificial intelligence, and so provide the machine from controlling humanity. Probably this is the answer.
Thank you so much, Professor Assante. Now I'm going to the last speaker, Professor Kamal from Morocco, because in your presentation, your focus was on socio-cultural capital and economy. And also you mentioned some example about the students, they want to move from Morocco to other countries. In this case, also Professor Bellia discussed about this topic. I would like to say, because we talk about socio-cultural capital, according to one research in West, they found when people from developing country with minimum master degree try to move to the developed country to have better society, better situation, better economy, the host country is, the parent country is going to lose $3 million for each person. That means they already invested $3 million to prepare someone to have minimum master degree with so much knowledge, know-how, do-how, competencies, and etc. That's why my question is regarding to your research in Morocco and France. What is your solution for your society? Because we talk about dynamic society. That doesn't mean your social capital move from your country to, for example, France, to have a better social situation. And then what happened at the end? The average of IQ and dynamic society in Morocco is coming down. Also the same in the other developing countries. What is your experience and solution for this issue?
Thank you, Dr. Hamid, for the question. As you know, everyone wants a better life, a better economic situation. So I think the solution is to invest in education, to invest in culture, because even we try to change our culture, it's very difficult. We have a lot of Moroccans living outside Morocco, and they come every summer with the dollars, with the euro, with the currency. So I think the first solution is to the home countries. The home countries must invest in education, must invest in work market. If we can found, it's difficult to make the same socioeconomic situation as the developed countries, but if we can just reduce the let me say, the distance between origin countries and host countries, I think we can find solution in this way. But let me just remind you that a lot of people think if they go outside the country, origin countries, they have to lose their culture to integrate in the host countries. I don't think this is the solution, because assimilation is not a solution. The peoples can keep their personal characteristics and can keep their cultures and can really integrate in the host country. To resume, I think the solution is to invest in the education and in cultures. I think Japan make a lot of investment in culture. All Japans think clothes as Japan, work as Japan. If we can invest in education and culture, I think it's the right solution. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Kamal, for your proper answer. Yeah, you are right. We need to invest on culture and education. And also we need to make clear for people, young people in developing countries, if you go to other countries, that doesn't mean you need to forget your culture. And modernist doesn't mean West. Modern means when you can use the advantages of a new culture, also keep your culture as national power. That's also very important. Thank you so much, all respected speakers. I'm going to conclude our webinar in 1-2 minutes now. All respected speakers, they discuss about different issues with different views to dynamic society with a focus on values, ethics, and behavior through the socio-cultural capital. I would like to say, yes, culture is very important. I have a model. Now I'm going to share this with you, this model, and then conclude my speech. I have a model called 7 Pillars of Sustainability, or 7Ps. If I show you this model now, in my model, I talk about sustainability and then with different factors. I'm going to share my screen with you now. Sorry, because of being a little bit slow. And then, yeah, this model, I talk about 7 different factors which are helping us to have sustainability. And now I can show you. Can you see my screen? I'm trying to share my screen with you.
No, not
Not now.
Not now.
Not yet, Hamid.
How about now?
It's sharing.
Yes,
Now we
very
can
good.
see.
Thank you.
Okay. If you look at this screen, you can see the 7 pillars of sustainability model. In this model, I focus on 7 factors: politics, social, environment, economic, technique, culture, and education. If we want to have dynamic society, we need to see, first of all, social and society is not an individual topic. That means there are 6 other factors, 6 other pillars can influence society: politics, education, culture, technique, and economic, and environment. But how? First of all, as all of you mentioned in your presentation and also at our discussion, the culture is the foundation. We need to focus on culture. We need to focus, culture is the most important point. For example, in my country some years ago, the police tried to make, cultural foundation training for the children to train them how to support the family when the father is driving with the car, for example. And then they gave them some, small papers with the logo of police for the children. When you were with the family and driving with the car, traffic light or speed, then your child should write, penalty for you. Papa, you are driving so fast. Papa, you passed the red light. And that was really interesting because these children try to learn the cultural paradigm when they are a child to prepare for the future as foundation. The second priority is environmental responsibility. They need to be also responsible for environment, for reducing the gas emission, the CO2 emission, the greenhouse gas emission, and etc. To having a clean economy, because the 21st century gets shaped by 3 technological revolutions, which is D3, decarbonization, decentralization, and digitalization. After environment, social cohesion is the next priority. All of you already mentioned integration. Yes, social cohesion is very important to get integration in the society. That's very important because we already mentioned we are going to finish globalization and we are going to have a new localization with integration. And in this regard, in Germany, the small, medium-sized enterprises, they have a very important mission. They say, thinking globally, acting regionally. Then social integration or social cohesion. After social cohesion, the next priority is economic efficiency. The most of the problem we have in this dynamic societies, they focus on only social economy efficiency and they forgot the culture, social, and environment. After economic efficiency, we need to have proper education and technological stuff to use them to control the situation and to control the technologies to not be out of control and also not dominate us. At the end, politicians, they must make regulation and law to support us to have dynamic society. And that means the governments, smart governments, and cyber governance, and also sustainable governance, they have a vital role to support this case. Then in this case, we can see the social or dynamic society is not an individual topic. There are so many other factors that can influence it. Culture is the foundation, the main one. And then we have environmental responsibility, social cohesion, economic efficiency, then proper education and technique, and then politicians to support us with regulation and law. We should not forget, Dr. Kamal, because you mentioned sometimes about the proper education. I need to say, since 2016, according to a different Erasmus Plus project regarding education, we have found the problem in developing countries and the societies, they are not dynamic, is not budget, technology, knowledge, and enough talent. No, the problem is not having enough competencies. And that's the main point to solve this challenge. Thank you so much, everybody. And now is almost 5 to 5 p.m. German time. And I hope that was interesting and useful webinar today. I'm so thankful and use this opportunity again to say, I'm so thankful all respected speakers for your time, for your very interesting topics and presentation. Please send me your file, then we will publish them, and you will get soon, thank you letter from Sadi Institute in Berlin. And also, again, thank you from Sadi Institute in Berlin to hosting in this webinar today. Thank you so much, everybody.